Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed this free clip of aggressive progressives on the Young Turks. This is just a preview of what you will receive with TYT membership. That means exclusive interviews, panel discussions, and more of Jimmy, and of course, me. Check out this next clip, and if you like what you see, you can access full episodes of Aggressive Progressives by becoming a member. Head to tyt.com/join now.
Tucker Carlson, piggybacking on the last segment about Amazon, Tucker Carlson is also noticed. Think about this, Tucker Carlson. Now, let's watch his report, and we'll talk about it afterwards. It's interesting that he's the guy saying this.
The founder of Amazon is worth about $150 billion. That's enough to make him the richest man in the world by far, and possibly the richest human being in all of human history. It's certainly enough to pay his employees well, but he doesn't. A huge number of Amazon workers are so poorly paid, they qualify for federal welfare benefits. According to data from the nonprofit group New Food Economy, nearly 1 in 3 Amazon employees in Arizona, for example, was on food stamps last year. Jeff Bezos isn't paying his workers enough to eat, so you made up the difference with your tax dollars. Next time you see Jeff Bezos, make certain that he says thank you. What about the Walton family? They founded Walmart. Collectively, they're worth about $175 billion. That's more than the entire gross domestic product of Qatar, the oil-rich Gulf state. The Waltons could certainly afford to be generous with their workers. Instead, they count on you to take up the slack. In 2013, taxpayers sent more than $6 billion to Walmart's employees for food stamps, Medicaid, and housing assistance. And if you think that's remarkable, meet Travis Kalanick. He's the youthful founder of Uber. His personal fortune is close to $5 billion. His drivers, by contrast, often make less than minimum wage. One recent study found that many Uber drivers lose money working for the company. That's not a sustainable business model. The only reason it continues is because of your generosity. Because you're paying the welfare benefits for Uber's impoverished drivers, child billionaires like Travis get to keep buying bigger houses and more airplanes. He's someone else who owes you a thank you note. If you can think of a less fair system than this, send us an email. We'd love to hear about it. This system is indefensible. And yet, almost nobody ever complains about it. How come? Well, conservatives like us support the free market, and for good reason. The free market works. But there's nothing free about this market. A lot of these companies operate as monopolies. They hate markets. They use government regulation to crush competition. There's nothing conservative about that, just as there's nothing conservative about most big corporations. Just the opposite. They are the backbone of the left.
So he goes on to draw wrong conclusions, but so that's not what this segment is about. This segment is about the fact that he actually is talking about the business model of Walmart, Uber. It's the new business model, right? Screw your employees, make them go on welfare and public assistance, and then all those profits get funneled to just a handful of people and the investors. So the workers don't ever enjoy the profits of their company. That's the world we're living in right now. This is so that's why when I say, what do you call a system that takes the richest country in the world and renders 63% of its residents unable to afford a $1,000 emergency? That's a failed system. So this is the system we've created, where guys like this can have companies like that exploit people while they make billions of dollars. What we need is a system that takes money out of politics so the politicians can write the rules that make sure that when you generate profit for people, you get to share in that profit. And that's what we need. We need to have politicians responsive to us. Let me throw it over to you, Steve. What do you think about that? And the fact that there's so much to say about this.
I think Tucker Carlson is foolish, because he identifies the problem.
Yes.
He intentionally draws all the wrong conclusions. So he talks about how regulation is what's keeping competitors from coming in.
Right.
That the monopolies are crushing the competition with regulation, and that this is the backbone of the left.
Right.
So he's a total fraud and a liar. Yes. But he identifies the problem with this unsustainable system. This is total corporate
capture.
Corporate capture is crony capitalism, as you mentioned.
Yes.
And this is the backbone of the right that has now co-opted the left.
Yes, this is what happens when corporations take over our government and write the rules in their favor. Why do you think that it's, well, you can say whatever you want.
Well, you know, I just was sitting here and I know we have several friends that are in this gig economy. They're driving cars, or they're walking dogs, or they're doing anything to survive. And what safety nets are out there for people?
There aren't.
You know, so I know a lot of artists, I know a lot of actors and actresses that, you know, they've been really working hard all these years in LA and Hollywood, and consequently, they don't have a retirement. They don't have anything to fall on. There is no safety net for these people right now.
None.
So I see that, you know, I know we were going to try to do the universal income, but, you know, when you see something like this, when you see how easy it is to exploit people and make them, you know, indentured servants, because where else can they go? Where else are they going to find a job? So, you know, so I'm panicked for the people.
Yeah, I just want to go back to Tucker Carlson and his little
sleight of hand.
Sleight of hand there,
Yes.
great one. Because he's doing something that's very clever. He's identifying a problem that has universal agreement. Nobody, regardless of where they are on the spectrum, thinks that this is appropriate for a large corporation to suck up all the profits and keep it amongst the executives and screw over their workers and make the taxpayers pay for it. No one's in favor of that except those who benefit from that system, which is, by its very definition, a very, very tiny few. But he's using that to trick people into thinking that there's a problem with the left, right? And that there is too much regulation.
Right, that's not what this is.
Right, and then this is yet another area where there's a giant void coming from the Democrats. The Democrats should be on top of this issue, but providing the correct rationale
solution.
and the correct solution, right? Which Bernie Sanders is. Right? But where is everyone else? Every Democrat should be on board with Bernie and say, this is why this is our guy who should lead us to victory. Not trying to find other corporatists that can pass the smell test and sneak in one more victory before the people really wake up to revolution. Because this is such an easy issue to win on. Like, they will get everyone on board with this. Of course, companies like Amazon, Walmart, and Uber should either pay taxes to cover benefits that their employees are taking from the taxpayers, or a living wage. It's your choice, but pay one or the other. You don't get to pay them nothing, make taxpayers pay your employees while you keep all the profits for yourself. So that's a very, very easy issue to win on, and the silence of the Democrats is deafening and sad and predictable. Only Bernie Sanders will stand up and do this, right?
So again, this is another example of how the Democrats have no vision. They have no plan for America. And the fact that Tucker Carlson is the guy out there articulating what's wrong, he has the wrong solutions, but it's
the same game that Trump played, right? He identified the problem and then he offered the opposite wrong solution. But you know what? People are gonna fall for it because they have at least someone's identifying the problem, right?
Right.
They're saying, "Oh my gosh, he hears the problem, he hears my pain,"
and then he says the problem's Mexicans, or the problem's Muslims,
right? Yeah, and you know exactly. And Tucker Carlson saying the problem is the left, the problem is regulations, the problem is this, you know, whatever, right?
It's not regulations that made Jeff. It certainly is policy. It's financial policy. It's not because he's overburdened with regulations. There are no regulations as far as worker protections.
Right.
But there are regulations as far as owner protections. There's a protections for Jeff Bezos and Amazon, meaning sweetheart deals where they don't have to pay taxes and you do. So there's those kind of sweetheart deals. Yeah, there's kind of that kind of. So, but this is not because of the left. He's saying, well, the left creates welfare, and then Jeff Bezos could exploit it, and he doesn't have to pay a living. So if you just got rid of welfare, Jeff Bezos would have to spend money. It's just the craziest. So no, you know.
Right. If we got rid of all regulation and got rid of welfare and the social safety net, Jeff Bezos will wake up and pay everyone a living wage. Right?
That's not how it works. Yeah. All right. That's why there's something called price gouging. That's why that's illegal, right? Because when left to their own devices, capitalists gouge you, okay? And they'll have actually child labor. Why do you think we have to have child labor laws? Because capitalists want to put kids to work because they're cheap. That's why. Okay. So here's what John Stossel says. Did you see this?
No.
He says this is not a scam. This is what he said to Tucker Carlson. He said, this is not a scam. This is capitalism. It creates wealth for everyone. Amazon and its cost cutting has saved Americans billions of dollars. So what John Stossel is doing unwittingly is telling you, no, this is how capitalism works. It's horrible. A handful of people get insanely wealthy and everyone else treads water. That's capitalism. That's what John Stossel, and he's sticking up for it. Look how many of the billions of dollars it saved. It didn't save anyone billions of dollars, John. What it did was it took billions of dollars out of our economy and gave it to the richest guy in the history of the world. It didn't, that money's not in our economy. That money gets siphoned out of our economy. Do you understand? That's why the estate tax is essential, because otherwise that money just sits there. And it's all these people, I love these people who like to say, well, you know, welfare creates a lazy class and it creates some people who don't want to work. What do you think inheriting wealth does? What do you think never having to work a day in your life? That's why you're supposed to have the estate tax. And if your rich kids are so great, they'll be able to earn their own living, won't they? So I just hate people who want to, you know, even guys like, you know, you hear athletes. I remember Magic Johnson saying, well, I want to make sure my kids are taken care of for the rest of their life. Why? You want to make them unable to earn a living? So that idea, anyway, we're getting off track. But anything, Steph, you want to add to this? Because we only got like a minute left.
I got nothing.
Anything, Mr. Salmon?
This point that this is capitalism is also, you know, a red herring.
That's an indictment on capitalism. If this is capitalism, right?
It is and it isn't, because it's not, because capitalism, I think, is supposed to depend on a free market, right? Competition, but there is no competition, right?
It's a monopoly.
It's a monopoly. So is capitalism, is being a monopoly, is that part of capitalism? If it is, then it sucks, it doesn't work.
Right.
If it's not, then it's not capitalism. So either way, it's an indictment on the system.
Right. And so, well, we have antitrust laws on the books that could be applied at any moment. Right. They just don't apply them. Barack Obama didn't apply them. They don't do it anymore. There's no such thing as antitrust legislation. It doesn't happen. I mean, there is, but no antitrust enforcement. So we were just laughing about pictures of Alex Jones that he makes. God, that guy's he's one of the better comedians around. I know people don't know. They don't get what he's doing. But I did see this thing where he sells these pills that they're like diet or healthy pills or whatever, supplements or whatever. And so there's a picture of him like with his shirt off like this before, and then a picture of him after. He looks exactly the same. One picture has a shadow and one doesn't. That's the only difference. He looks exactly the same. I wish I had those two pictures I could show you. Exactly. Okay. Anyway, and by the way, you do not want to see me with my shirt off. It's not pretty. So here's a guy, Ryan Nobles for CNN. He's the CNN's Washington correspondent. He seems like a nice person. He's a dad to 4 kids, and he's married to his co-anchor. Isn't that's nice? Isn't that sweet? So sounds like a good guy. And he tweeted this out: unbelievably dramatic. Just as Senator John McCain's coffin was brought up the steps of the U.S. Capitol, the skies opened up. It was a heavy pouring rain, and the honor guard did not break their stride at all. Okay, unbelievably dramatic. Okay, so then Dana Bash retweets that and says the angels were crying. Here at CNN, just a few blocks away, no rain, just there. Oh my God. They act like John McCain was a combination of Santa Claus, Jesus Christ, and Abraham Lincoln.
They're writing a hagiography or something.
This is a hagiography!
I'm in Malcolm's seat, so I gotta say hagiography.
Oh, wow.
Well, I like how when you said it, you wanted us all to notice. He said it like under his breath. You know, like hagiography. I'm like, get out of here.
That's his humble brag nonsense. He knows what he's doing.
Hagiography. Which is a word I literally looked up 2 weeks earlier, so I knew it. I'm like, you son of a gun. Anyway, so there's Dana Bash saying the angels were crying here at CNN, just a few blocks away, no rain. Now, these people are supposed to be the people who hold the powerful accountable. And look, listen to them. So then this Carolyn Lagerfeld says, it wasn't the angels who were crying, more likely the thousands of people who died due to his warmongering. This is a political correspondent? I know. It's kind of hard to believe. So Steph, what do you make of that?
Well, you know, come on. It was so evident if you just watch any of the coverage of McCain's funeral. It just became a session to bash Trump.
It was.
That's all it turned out to be.
You know what? We were talking about this on the way here. At Aretha Franklin's funeral, who was Michael Eric Dyson?
Yes.
He slammed Trump during the thing, right?
Yes.
So now forever, when people go back to the eulogy of Michael Eric Dyson for Aretha Franklin, it's going to be tainted with Trump. Trump's going to come and go. Why, you know what I mean? It's just like if you would give a eulogy for Elvis and you talked about Nixon the whole time. Everybody remembered. Like, why do you want to taint it? So that's what all the people are talking about, by the way, is how they subtly slammed Trump. Like, the opposite of, to me, the opposite of giving respect to someone is now you're going to use it to denigrate someone else, a political adversary. It just, what do you think of that?
I agree with all of that. So, as I mentioned, if you're at the funeral and you want to show your respect and only talk about the person's, good deeds, because you're not going to bring up the person's good and bad at his funeral if you're speaking at the funeral. I get it. Eulogize a person, say he was an American hero, a patriot. That's great. I don't have any gripes against Meghan McCain, of course, or anyone else who said nice things about John McCain, her father. But the media is different. A media is covering the passing of any public figure should be objective in their coverage of them. They shouldn't laud them and make them and write hagiographies. I'm overdoing it.
Nice.
So I have a problem with the media coverage of John McCain's death. But again, that's distinctly separate and different than people who are at his funeral and eulogizing him. That is nice. In fact, I caught portions of the funeral. I was traveling, so I didn't get to see all of it, but it was kind of nice. Like you would like to think that upon your death, people are going to speak well of you, and your close people, people that meant something to you are there, and it's like a nice moment. I have no problems whatsoever with that. It's just when journalists are covering it and they're literally making him out to be some sort of saint where the angels are crying, the skies are opening up. Come on, guys. I mean, you can do better than that.
Yeah, I hope so.
Well, you mean he wasn't a saint?
It's funny that the guy, he voted against, Martin Luther King holiday every chance he got up until he wanted to run for president, and then he said he apologized for it. I mean, and then he foisted Sarah Palin on us. And then, he did a lot of stuff like he voted for the tax cut, right? That thing that took a lot of health care away from people. And it's just, again, it's just like, to see news people pretend that John McCain was Santa Claus, it's just disgusting, right? He was just a regular politician. He did McCain-Feingold. That's fantastic. Yeah. That was fantastic. And he also did lots of horrible stuff.
Yeah, he voted against the repeal of Obamacare. That was good.
That was good.
That was good.
But then he voted for the tax cut.
The tax cut, that's bad.
Which was horrible.
Yeah. and he brought us to Sarah Palin, but then he kind of regretted it, right?
He didn't invite her to the funeral.
Yeah, because he knew what he did, right? I mean, like she took the country into a really dark path with all that openly racist conversation about, he pals around with terrorists, all that kind of stuff. And I don't know what McCain did behind the scenes. In that movie, Straight Talk Express, or whatever that was, they make him seem like a really good guy.
Yes.
Like a really, really good guy who was trying to put a stop to Palin's race baiting. But he went along with a certain portion of it. So he's definitely shared some of the blame, or the lion's share of the blame for bringing her to the national spotlight. But then he regretted it. He apologized for some of it, did some good things. It's just complicated, right? I would argue that most of the things he did in terms of policy were bad for America, okay? He did some good things, he did a lot of bad things. I think most are bad. So, but then he did have a certain level of honor, right? I mean, for example, his military service when he was a POW.
He stood up against torture.
Yeah, that was fantastic, and that part I completely support him on that. But again,
he had moral clarity on when it came to torture. Isn't that something? I mean, he really had moral clarity when it came to that.
Except our country doesn't.
Except our country doesn't. You're right.
Yeah, and so he took a principled stand in certain areas. That was great. In other areas, he didn't. Right?
Right.
And
he came back and advocated for Nixon's bombing of Cambodia when he came back from Vietnam. So, he did lots of stuff like that too.
I was too young for that kind of stuff.
And he never met a war he didn't like and all that. He was always for giving arms to even terrorists in Syria and Ukraine, arming those people say they're neo-Nazis, right? So it's a real mixed bag. And the fact that the news media does these hagiographies.
Right, it's just, now you're in on the game. No, I just don't want the news media to be cheerleaders.
Yes.
For anything.
Correct.
Just be.
Correct.
Yeah.
Try to be objective truth tellers.
Right.
How about that? Okay, sure.
Just one thing that.
Just one though.
Just one thing that I also don't want Sarah Palin at my funeral. Let's make a note of that, please.
I will write a hagiography
Oh, thank
On you.
I do. Yeah, I would too.
Yeah,
I'll hagiographize you.
Yeah.
Is that a word you think? Hagiographize?
It should be.
Here's our big spy guy, John Brennan, said a man of tremendous courage, patriotism, and integrity, Senator John McCain will be remembered by history as one of our country's greatest heroes. His life of service and a strong decency and respect toward others should serve as a shining example for all Americans. Okay, that's nice of you to say, John. What I said is John O Brennan will be remembered as history as a lying liar with zero integrity who was complicit in torture and illegally spying on the U.S. Senate and repeatedly lying about it. He is the moral superior to no one. So just don't let John O Brennan try to coattail on John McCain's dignity and principled stand against torture when John O Brennan was busy covering it up. Okay. Oh, here's one more. Let's go with this one. This is from someone named Karen Tumulty, and she says, Henry Kissinger, Al Gore, Barack Obama. That makes at least 3 Nobel Peace Prize winners sitting in the first 4 pews at Senator John McCain's memorial. When you realize that 2/3 of the time Nobel people are just with us. And here's something, now this is going to make Steve uncomfortable. It says, somebody locked the doors at McCain's funeral and just started a war crimes tribunal. You got them all there. Dick Cheney, George Bush.
Wait, Dick Cheney was there?
Wasn't Cheney there? No.
I didn't see.
Oh, he wasn't there? Okay, everyone's saying no. Yeah. All right, you got George Bush.
George Bush.
You got Henry Kissinger.
Yep.
You got John O Brennan. You got all the people who ordered torture. I'm sure Haspel was there, right? Don't you think she was there? No?
Don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, if Rumsfeld's there, sure, I say proceed. John Yoo, all these guys.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, if they were there. But I don't know if they were there. Yeah.
You know, of course, what Chomsky says, if the Nuremberg standards were applied to every president since World War II would be considered a war criminal. That's what Chomsky says. So here's this guy, Charles P. Pierce. He tweeted this out. I am a touch sick of the lefty hot takes by which those of us who were moved to a kind of optimism by the funeral Saturday have forgotten the crimes of the Bush administration and the crime that was Vietnam. House is on fire. Don't care who brings a hose. So do you see what this guy's saying? He's saying, I'm sick and tired of lefties reminding us of how horrible all these people are who are lionizing John McCain. I'm sick and tired of you guys reminding us that what got us Trump. I'm sick and tired of you guys reminding us that it's been 40 years of neoliberalism and nonstop warmongering by 2 parties. There is no anti-war party, and 80% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. But let's go ahead and praise these people, the people who brought you Trump. Let's pretend that they're the well, exactly what I said. In a room full of war criminals and neoliberals who gave you Trump, this establishment pinhead thinks they are the antidote and not the cause. This is why this guy is always welcome with open arms on MSNBC, the network not allowed to even cover Bernie and propped up Trump with the Pied Piper strategy.
Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed this free clip of Aggressive Progressives on the Young Turks. This is just a preview of what you will receive with TYT membership. That means exclusive interviews, panel discussions, and more of Jimmy, and of course, me. If you like what you saw, you can access full episodes of Aggressive Progressives by becoming a member. Head to tyt.com/join now.